Junior Pandit, Shashi and family, let me on behalf of you all extend a warm cordial welcome to each and every one of you. Today I have learned that this a special day for Shashi Punya. Arjun? Arjun. So it is his 10th birth anniversary. And by any standard, that's a remarkable achievement. And it is our prayer that he will go on to live for many, many more years and bring joy and happiness to his family and to all of us who are around. So this evening, I shall probably take about 45 minutes, but before I do that, I want to do Ramayana Sumra, and I ask all of you to please join me. So salutations and prostrations unto the lotus feet of Prabhu Sri Ram. Beloved devotees, my lesson is taken from the first book of Sri Ramprabhu's Bhagavatam, and it deals with two very profound devotees in the personalities of Manu and Shatrupa. But I want to give you my message this evening is later down in the chapter. So I'll just give you a preface of what I'm going to talk about, so that I will not take up too much of your time. Now, in our Hindu Dharma, life is categorized in 4 stages. totaling 100 years. Now many of us do not make that amount of years. But it was a tradition at the time to put into place the human development. So in this 25 years, they broke it into 4 stages of 25 each. And the first 25 years is referred to as the Brahmacharya stage. That is the student stage. Within this 25-year period, you go to school, you graduate, and what have you. You get all your knowledge within this 25-year period. It was so structured. And then in the second 25-year period, you had what you call the Grihastha ashram. That's a household where you get married, you raise a family, you serve your community, and what have you. And then in the third quarter, it is called the Vanaprastha stage. Ban means the forest. At that stage, you begin to renounce gradually the world. So gradually you go and you do your meditation and so on, and try to give up. And then in the final 25 years, it is called sannyas. That is when you give up totally all connections to the material world. There was this couple, Manu and Shatrupa, king and queen. And they had reached the 4th stage of life, the sannyas stage. And they are saying to themselves, you know something, we have reached this 4th stage in our life, and we are still occupied in the worldly affairs. And having taken a firm decision in the mind, it is time to move on and to give up the worldly things. They passed on their kingdom to their children, and they moved on to the forest called Naimisharan. Naimisharan is a place where there is a collection of people, of devotees, who perform great tapasya, great devotion, great bhakti. So it's a place filled with energy of a spiritual nature. And the moment you enter in such a place, your whole thinking becomes different. Your life, just because of the vibrations coming out of that particular place, it changes you. And that is the profundity of that place, the type of energy that you get. Because if you're in a place where only devotion is being conducted, bhakti, tapasya, chanting of the name, that creates a certain vibration which brings peace and serenity to the mind. So they went there and they joined up with the saints and sages and they began to conduct meditations. And they were chanting this mantra, this 12-lettered mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That became their daily routine. And at all times, on their lips were these words, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. They began fasting. They fasted on vegetables and roots. Then they began to fast on water alone, and then on air alone, and then they gave up air. Because there was a progression in their spiritual development as they engaged in all these practices. And now, by then, their bodies became completely emaciated. They were like skin and bone. But they never gave up. They weren't thinking about their physical appearance. And so profound was their devotion that the Lord was extremely happy. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, the 3 of them, tried to awaken them from that spiritual practice, but they never woke up. They were so infused in that kind of action that no voice could change them or to awaken them from that. But then, suddenly, a voice came from the heaven And that solemn voice, it thundered in that area. It created such a song that they were awakened from that. And the Lord said, I am deeply pleased with your devotion. Please ask of a boon. One of their aims was that by conducting these meditations and profound activities pertaining to spirituality, that with these physical eyes, we will be able to see the divine. And when that voice thundered, the divine Lord appeared. And lo and behold, they were able to see the divine. And they fell prostrate at the feet of the divine, both of them. And the Lord said, I am willing to give anything. Ask of me anything. It's like an over check. Ask of me anything, and I shall give it unto you. If you are given that permission, what would you ask for? What have they asked for? And Manu asked. He says, my Lord, you already know what I'm going to ask. Because you are Antarjami. You are the indweller of all hearts. He says, my Lord, if it pleases you, I want to have a son like you. And some 10 years ago, Shashi, he prayed to have a son. A special son to be gifted with the qualities of our Hindu Dharma. And when I looked at Arjun this evening performing, the bhav with which he performed tells a big story. And it tells of the guidance of both his parents and his grandfather, whom I knew for quite some time. So at this moment, he's inculcating those values, which ensures that in later years, he will be a force to reckon with in terms of our Hindu Dharma. So all blessings to Arjun this evening, and indeed to the parents. So he said, I want to have a son like you. And the Lord immediately replied, you must, because he said, whatever you wish, I shall give. So shall it be. And then he said to himself, where can I find one like myself? And then he said to him, I shall come to your home as your son. So he made another request, and I want you to understand the depth of his devotion. I want to read for you this. That is, he is making this appeal to the Lord. He says, Sutta Bishek Tava Pad Rati Ho. Pad means a feet. Rati is the wife of Kamdev, who is the god of love, Cupid. So you can imagine Rati, what she is like. So with that kind of love and devotion, I want to love your feet with that type of performing love. So he said, Sutta Bishai Katava Pad Rati Ho, Mohi Bara Mudha Kahai Kina Sko. He says, my Lord, I want to love your feet as a father loves his son. I want to love your feet as a father loves his son. A father would do anything for his child, father and mother. And the extent of their love is such that they would sacrifice their own happiness and everything for the sake of the son. So it tells a big story. He said, I want to love your lotus feet as a father loves his son. And Shashi could attest to that. And his mother also. Because for them, their life now is Arjun. And he says, to express that love further, this is what he says. Mani binu pani, jimijal binu mina. Money is a gem. Binu means without, and Pani is a snake. It said that the snake has a gem on its head. Money, that gem. And if for some reason that gem is lost, the snake gives up the life. It can't live without that. It says, my Lord, you are that money. You are that gem. If I were to lose you, I have nothing. My life is worthless. He goes on to say, Jal binu mina. Mina is a fish. Jal is water. Can a fish exist in the absence of water? He said, my Lord, that is my relationship with you. You are the water. I am the fish. I could never exist in your absence. So, he's asking this boon. My Lord, give me this boon so that I will be able to love your lotus feet at all times throughout my life. And the Lord said, so be it. And then he said, obey my command now, Manu and Shatrupa, and dwell in the capital of Indra, which is the king of heaven. Indra is in heaven. He's the king of heaven. He said, go there now. Now that you have conducted all your meditation, devotion, and what have you, go there and reside until the time that is ready. So I want to begin my Katha from this point. So I hope that, I know it's a long introduction, but I wanted you to get the gist of it. So in Doha, Tulsidas says, that voice, that heavenly voice, is telling Manu and Shatrupa. He says, go there in the capital of Indra, the king of heaven. He says, and enjoy yourself freely. And when the time comes, when the time comes, he says, he said, you will be born in Ayodhya as the king of Ayodhya. Awadh is Ayodhya. You will be born as the king of Ayodhya, and and I shall come as your son. Now that's what he had asked. I want to have a son like you. So he says, when the time comes, you will be born in Ayodhya as King Dashrath, and I shall come as your son Sri Ram. So that Sri Ram is a very powerful being, because he transcended Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Because when they called for them to be awakened from that spirituality. They didn't budge. And then that supreme entity, that Vasudev, that voice thundered, and then they woke up. And when they said, I want to have a son like you, it means we're like that Vasudev. And he is saying, I shall come when you become king of Ayodhya as your son. And that is Sri Ram. So that is the power and might of Prabhu Sri Ram. People take him for an ordinary king, an ordinary man. He is far beyond that. He's Lord God Almighty incarnate. So Tulsidas tells us in Chopin. He says, voluntarily, he says, I will assume human guise, Ichamai, out of my own desire. I shall assume the form of a human being. In the human guise, I will manifest myself in your home. Hui ho pragat. Pragat is to appear. The Lord never takes birth, like you and I. But for convenience, they use the term born. But pragat means to appear. Out of his own desire, he appears with whatever he wants to do. So he says, Hoi hao pragat niketa tumhar. He says, I will manifest myself in your home. That is when you become Raja Taspat. And he says, Ansana sahita deha daritata karihao charit bhagat sukhadata. He says, I shall come in 4 parts. That is Ram, Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrughan. So he split his energies into 4 parts. But Sri Ram still maintained his full powerhouse. He was still there with all that might. And he says, Karihao charit bhagat sukhadata. Charit is the activities. He says, I will perform such sportive deeds, such activities for the happiness of my devotees. I will perform these for the happiness of my devotees. And that, as a child, when he came there, whatever he did, he won the hearts of everybody. As indeed Arjun wins the heart of his parents. And that is why the parents, it's a gift when you get a child. It's a special gift. And I guess they would have prayed, as everybody else after marriage, it is your prayer that I shall have offspring. But when Manu asked, he said, my Lord, I want to have a son like you. What does that tell us? The Lord is, Sri Ram was called Maryada Purushottam, a special human being. And that's what every parent wants, a special child. A child who inculcate the values that you have. One of whom not only you will be proud, but the community will be proud. The world at large will be proud of his achievements, of his attainments, of his progress in life. And when one looks at Sri Ram, he is described as the ideal son, the ideal husband, the ideal king. Everything, he was the ideal. That's why he was called Maryada Purushottam. And that is what you want of your child. So on his 10th birth anniversary, he is marching towards becoming that kind. And I'm sure he's the joy and the prestige of the home. As indeed all parents would love their child like that. So, in Chopai, Tulsidas says, Jai Rama Shri Rama, Jai Jai Rama, Shri Rama Jai Rama, Jai Jai Rama, Jai Rama. When one listens to the exploits of Prabhu Shri Ram with reverence, listen to the glories, how? With reverence. As you all seated here now, listening to, with a special kind of how, with reverence, because these are my words. This, our scriptures, Sant Tulsidas wrote these words. And he says, when one listens to the exploits of Prabhu Shri Ram with reverence, he says, blessed men will cross this ocean of worldly existence, what we call the Bhausagar. What is the Bhausagar? Sagar is an ocean. For all of us, there is a distance between ourselves and the divine. That space in between us and the divine is what is referred to as the Bhav Sagar. For some, that distance is very close, and for others, it's very far indeed. How can we close that gap? By continuously being involved in reciting the name, in listening to his kathas, and finding yourself in the company of his saints and sages. In this way, you can reduce that gap. So he says, those of you who would listen like that, put into practice what you have listened. Let it become part and parcel of your life. He says, you will be able to cross this ocean of mundane existence. How? Gopa the symbol. You know, Gopa, when the cow walks on the dirt, it leaves an impression, the hoof impression. He says, when that is filled with water, this vast ocean that you need to cross is like that little puddle. How it becomes that little puddle? Because of your devotion to the divine. Because of that bhakti that you have performed. That vast ocean becomes as small as that puddle. That is the power of bhakti. So he says, and by doing that, all the arrogance that are within us will be removed. Bhava tarihau mamata mad tyagi. All this arrogance, tyagi is to get out, to remove. All this mud, all this thing will be removed from you. This conceit and arrogance will be removed. And he says, Adi Shakti Jehi Jag Upajaya. Adi Shakti, my primal energy. He said, I will come with my Adi Shakti, my primal energy. Who is that? Mata Janki Ji, Mother Sita. He says, I will come with her, she who has brought into existence this universe. The feminine aspect of the divine is the powerhouse behind them. Brahma could create only because of Saraswati, that energy. Vishnu could maintain the universe only because of the energy of Ma Lakshmi. And Lord Shankara